It is today's Best Country Eagle 102.3, the morning show, joined this morning by a former professional American football player. That's right, folks. He played football in the National Football League for the Chicago Bears and the Dallas Cowboys. He's got a Super Bowl ring from 1985, Super Bowl 20 in the Chicago Bears, and I'm quite sure he did the Super Bowl shuffle. Dennis McKinnon joins me this morning. Dennis, thank you so much for getting up and coming in with us this morning.
Well, I get up early anyway, so this is an opportunity to share a wonderful story about a great organization here in Chicago. Helping players that some of them I played against, played with, that are not doing well across the country.
Right, and it's somewhat of a hot topic in the NFL right now, certainly in circles there. We're going to talk about Pork Rind Appreciation Day, and we're also going to talk about an organization, Gridiron Greats, that's doing things for retired NFL players in a big way. And these two corporations have kind of come together to work together for Gridiron Greats. Tell us a little bit about it, what Gridiron Greats is, Dennis, if you would.
Well, Gridiron Greats was kind of spearheaded by my former coach, Mike Ditka, and it was really put together based on a need and a glaring need for a lot of players who played during my era who have fallen on very, very bad times in terms of health and finance. And we felt that it was a great opportunity to help our brothers in need across the country, and I'm so thankful to have an opportunity to be involved with Gridiron Greats. And I know with athletes, you do everything you can to get on stage and to become notarized and publicized around the country. But when your life takes a very bad turn, you do everything you can to disappear. Very hard to do. And I think in the recent year, we've seen players who've gone from depression to suicide. And we're trying to do everything we can to make their lives a lot easier and let them know they're not alone.
Right. Certainly, when you mention suicide there, obviously Junior Seau comes to mind. And certainly football is a violent sport, concussions and whatnot. And I don't think people really understand the kind of lasting impact that some of these injuries can have on players. You hear about guys having a hard time to walk, like Johnny Unitas and players like that played back in the day, that played that hard-nosed, really football before they had all this safety equipment. And so it's, you hear about these long-lasting injuries and the effects of these injuries, and people don't really take that into account when they're watching a game on Sunday.
Well, I mean, it's I take my hat off to the guys that I played with doing the 87 strike, and we went to bat for the players who are playing today. That what the league was doing was not appropriate, and we were able to get free agency for today's player. Today's player benefits from a lot of hard work and sweat and sacrifice of players who came before them. But those players went back to the early 80s and 70s and 60s. Technology was not as good as it is today. There was no guaranteed contracts, and a lot of those players during those eras, when the season was over, they had to take second jobs. So the public perception about all athletes being millionaires is so far from the truth. These are real stories. These are real people, and I think from that standpoint, when you never turn your back on a brother, it's the Christian thing to do, and a lot of these guys seriously need a lot of help.
Absolutely, and I don't know if you caught the ESPN 30 for 30 special broke, and it looked at and really athletes in general, but it really had a focus on NFL players. Bernie Kosar was on there, and Bart Scott, who's a current NFL player for the Jets, I believe. He was talking about, just what you said there. A lot of people think NFL, they think millionaires. He said actually on the teams there are maybe one or two literal millionaires. There's a lot of thousandaires in there, and most times it's you give kids all this money, they come out of college, they don't know how to handle it, and they end up in a tough financial spot. Bernie Kosar was one of those examples, and so you see that kind of through and through. And so it's great to know that an organization like Gridiron Greats is there to provide assistance with medical care and things of that nature.
Well, the unique thing about it is that people believe that once you get a lot of money, you have no worries. Your worries are really just about to begin, because if you trust someone, you make one bad investment, and all your money can disappear. And then what do? And it's a scary situation. A lot of guys become dependent on pain pills or medication, and when your life changes, you become rather dependent on that. And dependency goes into, in a lot of cases, depression. And I lost a very close teammate of mine, Dave Dorson, and so this hits home with me, and it resonates with a lot of players who play for the National Football League. You always say you can't point the finger, or they're responsible for how my life has changed. And I just think that bad things happen to everybody, not just athletes, and you do everything you can. If you have an opportunity to help, you try to do that. And for us at Gridiron Greats, that's we're out of Chicago, but we're really trying to touch the lives of a lot of those players who have a voice that really don't want anybody to know their story. You know, and the great thing about it is that getting involved with Rudolph Foods for Pork Rind Appreciation Day, which is held on Super Bowl Sunday.
Right.
Great awareness for a wonderful organization, but at the same time, this is a great company that gives a tremendous amount of help, and they're helping us at Gridiron Greats, and I'm so thankful for the relationship.
Right. Obviously, Rudolph Foods, we've done a lot of business with them. They send us free pork rinds. They are the world's largest manufacturer of pork rinds. And so this second annual Pork Rind Appreciation Day campaign, like Dennis just said, it's going to be celebrated in conjunction with the Super Bowl. And they are going to donate
Last year they supported Wounded Warriors.
Right.
For veterans returning home from the war,
right.
for them and their families, and this is the second annual. So it really speaks volume to what Rudolph Foods is, and you know, I'm from the South, so I love pork rinds, and I used to put hot sauce on all of mine, but they have various flavors, but you know, 10 cents of every bag sold between now and Super Bowl Sunday goes to Gridiron Greats. You know, so it's a wonderful relationship, but really it's awareness to really what's going on in the National Football League with players who are financially in trouble, physically not healthy, and in a state of despair. And so we're doing everything we can to identify those players and seeing what assistance we can provide for them to make their lives a little better.
Right, and Dennis touched on it. Now through the big game, which will take place in February of 2013, 10 cents of every bag of Rudolph Foods pork skins purchased will go to the proceeds, and they're going to match the organization's assistance fund up to $10,000. So that's a big deal, the way you guys have kind of come together. You
know, I got involved with Gridiron Greats. Most of my friends in Chicago think I've been with the coach for a number of years. I just came on their staff not even a month ago. I have been assisting from afar for a while, and I think losing a teammate really changed my mindset in terms of how to help, and I think public perception about athletes today compared to athletes when I played. Such a wonderful distance, not only in how the game has changed, but how the finances have changed. And I think that a lot of these players' stories need to be heard and they need to be told appropriately, and at the same time get the assistance that they need. And I think with that, it's more of a personal mission for me to join Coach's organization and see what I can do to help. And like I said, it's so many players, a lot of them are household names around the country that people wouldn't know, that they would have no idea how bad their lives are at this point. And it's really about quality of life. And I think the biggest issue in the National Football League now is about the concussion situation and all those things that transpire. A lot of players that we're dealing with have irreparable damage, can't change what has already occurred in their body. And so what you're trying to do is identify, recognize what the issues are, and seeing how you can make their lives better.
Certainly doing a good job, and it is a great cause. Folks, you can go to gridirongreats.org for more information. Also, if you want to check out Rudolph Foods, rudolphfoods.com. They do have a Facebook as well. Brian, if you'd be willing, I'd like to play a little game that I have with everybody that comes on my show. Just 3 more questions. If you'd be a willing participant, we'll have the Dennis McKinnon edition of 3 more questions.
Okay.
All right, here we go, Dennis. You played college football at Florida State down there in Tallahassee. Now, we know what Florida State has produced when it comes to football players. Certainly some of the greatest names and most recognizable names in the sport. UF or Miami, who did you hate more?
I would probably say Miami because I grew up in Miami, off the street from the University of Miami. I was number 2 in the country coming out of high school, and they did not recruit me. So I never liked the University of Miami.
So you felt a little snub, and you got a little payback against the U down there in Tallahassee, huh?
Oh, that's a fact.
Excellent, excellent. Question number 2 with Dennis McKinnon. Any chance, Dennis, we can get a Ditka impersonation?
The coach?
The coach.
Oh, my goodness.
Mike Ditka.
Oh, my.
Is there something you used to say or do? Can you give us maybe a little inside story? If not an impersonation, maybe a little juicy tidbit of the way he used to fire you guys up in the locker room. I mean, you won a Super Bowl in '85. You went 15-1. So obviously, he had to say some things during that season. I mean, you guys had a great defense. McMahon at quarterback, Fridge Perry, Walter Payton. I mean, you played on truly one of the most historic teams of all time.
Well, I just think that when Mike Ditka came along, the Bears were not really a good franchise, and I guess you get to a point where you get tired of losing consensus after tremendous time.
Dennis, are you there?
He had to keep in his job, and I think he talks about today more appreciation today than he ever did when we played for him. What a great group of guys he had, headed by the great late Walter Payton.
Sure.
And but I was for that and that.
Hey, Dennis, I think you're breaking up on the cell phone there. Are you there?
I'm right here.
Okay, yeah, you're breaking up just a little bit. Not to worry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, I just pulled over and parked.
That's it. Safety first, folks. Dennis McKinnon. All right, final question. 3 more questions with Dennis McKinnon. What was your most memorable moment from the '85 season in which you won a Super Bowl?
Well, I would have to say being introduced in New Orleans at the Super Bowl, being a free agent from Miami. Never thought I had a shot of making the Bears, and in my 3rd year to be not only playing the Super Bowl, but starting. And hearing my name introduced and my mom being in stands, that was my greatest moment.
Absolutely, certainly memorable there. Dennis, thank you so much for chatting with us. Again, folks, gridirongreats.org for more information. Find out what that program is all about. And as well, Rudolph Foods for the Pork Skin Appreciation Day. These 2 organizations and companies working together to provide this 2nd annual Pork Rind Appreciation Day campaign. It's going to coincide with the Super Bowl coming up in February. Dennis, Twitter, social media, what do you got?
It'll still be twitter.com /Rudolph Foods, facebook.com /Rudolph Foods. But really, also you can find us, Gridiron Greats, to our Facebook page. But it's social media is where it is, and it's the best way of getting the word out. And I can't thank you guys enough for allowing me to come on and share our story here at Gridiron Greats and Rudolph Foods, and really a great collaboration to take care of some great players around the league whose lives have changed dramatically since they retired.
Right. Well, you're doing good work, sir, and we certainly appreciate you for making time for us. And anytime you want to come on back, the door is always open to you, Mr. McKinnon.
Well, as they say, I think the Bears and the Falcons are on a collision course, so hopefully
you know what? Hey,
another great conversation.
If that happens, we got to have you back. We got it because we're in LaGrange, Georgia as well, which is just south of Atlanta. So if that happens, NFC Championship game or just a playoff game, we got to have you back on.
Oh, I will look forward to that, because when the Bears played in the early 80s, since we didn't have an indoor facility, we would go to Atlanta to practice for postseason, which is kind of funny. And I'm from Quitman, Georgia.
Quitman, Georgia, right.
Out of Valdosta is where I was raised.
So you got some close ties to here in Georgia. You'll have your eye on that potential matchup, as we will too.
I have a tremendous eye on the Dome, and a lot of great friends that I grew up in high school and college that are in Atlanta. So that's a trip I would definitely make.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we look forward to it. I hope that matchup comes to fruition now. Absolutely. Dennis McKinnon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, gridirongreats.org, or go to facebook.com for Rudolph Foods, Twitter as well, and Pinterest. Dennis, thank you so much, and you be safe and continue the great work, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.